for coming today. I think I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. I actually prepared a slide. So I have been at UST since 1997, having graduated with a PhD from Columbia University, and I did my thesis at AT&T Bell Labs. And it was actually my dream to work at Bell Labs when I was a high school student in Hong Kong. So that's why I went. And then in 1994, when I was still a graduate student in Columbia, I visited Hong Kong and visited UST. And I saw, wow, this is the most beautiful campus I have ever seen, and I really want to work here. So I came back in 97. We founded, with other faculties, the Human Language Technology Center in 1997. I'm also director of a center called Interact, which is a joint center, research center with CMU, Carnegie Mellon University, University of Karlsruhe, Waseda University, and so on. I am a senior member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers in the, it's a US organization now that's global, and I'm not going to go through all of it. But so I have been working on speech and language since 1988, so we can guess my age. And I speak several languages. That's why I'm particularly interested in cross-lingual, multilingual problems. I've studied and worked all over the world, and I'm back in Hong Kong. I'm very happy to be here at UST. So first, what is cloud computing? Cloud computing, actually, I like to think of it as like your electricity and your water. So instead of buying hardware, buying servers, and buying computers, install them in your company, cloud computing is a delivery of computing service rather than the product. And you can pay for it on an on-demand basis, much like water and electricity, and it's delivered to you over the internet. That's cloud computing service, right? And cloud computing consists of, there are a whole bunch of servers somewhere, sitting somewhere. Somebody else is providing it, like your CLP or your water company. And then the computing power and resources can be delivered to all kinds of things. The app server, database, mobile devices, to PCs, to your kitchen sink. So this just means it can be delivered to anywhere. And the characteristics of cloud computing are why do we want cloud computing? There are client-server services that have been around for ages. And so why are we talking about cloud computing now? Well, basically because of the internet. Right? The delivery of computing resources becomes very agile. You can reprovision the resources, computing resources, easily. And there are a lot of APIs provided for people to write applications on, and the cost is reduced. If you just pay utility bill, it's much lower cost than buying your own server and setting up your server farm. And it is also device and location independent, so you can get the computing power anywhere you are. So you don't have to bring your server farm with you, and you can share resources with the co-tenants of. So it's kind of, think of it as electricity. And there's improved reliability and fault tolerance because the cloud computing providers, they will work extra hard to ensure that, and it's more scalable and elastic. So if you need more power, you just subscribe more. You pay more, just like electricity. All right. And it's also very, the performance can be monitored. You can, the cloud computing provider can provide you with an interface to monitor the service. And there's better security than traditional methods. And the maintenance is, of course, because it's centralized, it's easy. So nothing is installed on your premises, in your company, or in your household. It's all on the cloud, in the cloud. So the maintenance is done centralized that way. So this is why we're all very excited about cloud computing services. Now get into a little bit more technical. There are different layers in cloud computing. It goes from the server all the way from the server layer to infrastructure to platform, application, and client. So different cloud computing providers will be providing different kinds of services. You have those who provide simply the hardware, software for the servers. All right. So if you sell servers, that's your opportunity there. And then above that, there's the infrastructure platform. which is the storage, this data center, all these things that are required for cloud computing. So that's the whole infrastructure. And then above that, we have platform solutions. For example, Amazon Web Services is itself a platform solution, and they're platform solution providers. And then above that, software applications. In fact, if you have been using search on the internet, Google search or anything else on the web service, you're already a consumer of cloud computing services. All right? Search is already a cloud software application. And then, of course, there's the device hardware and software providers, where then your smartphone will need to have, the hardware itself and the operating systems for the smartphone, say iOS or Android operating system. Somebody has to provide that. And then somebody has to write applications on top of those operating systems. And then, of course, PC is another kind of, or Mac is another kind of device, terminal. And actually we have a few here. So they all run different operating systems, and on top of those operating systems, they run different kind of applications. So these are client side of the cloud computing. So you've got the cloud all the way to the client side. Now today my topic is going to be a little bit more focused on the particular kind of application, cloud computing application, which is voice and language. So there's a common term, we call it the voice in the cloud. So what's a voice in the cloud? It's not somebody, it's not God talking to you there. Voice in the cloud basically means in the cloud service, there is a voice input, voice recognition, voice search, all right, all kinds of voice services that comes from the cloud, and you can access this service through your device, be it the smartphone or the pad or the car system, right, when you're driving. Now, the difference between traditional or previous voice solution is that previously we already had these old phones, Motorola phones and Nokia phones. I think 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we could already voice dial, speak the name, one of 20 names, and then dial the number, right? But previous solutions, they were all embedded in the chip inside your phone, right? Today's voice solutions are all in the cloud. So when you talk, and then your voice is sent over through the internet to the cloud, where it's processed, and then the result then is returned back to you. Just like when you type a query to search. When you type Google search, right? You type a query, the keyword goes to Google Cloud, and then the result comes back. So the same thing for voice today. So increasingly we're talking to our machines, and especially our phones, because when we walk around with, the smartphones are basically little computers we carry around, right? So, and then we use that to access internet a lot. Do you know that people actually do not use a smartphone mostly for talking to people? The most frequent application on the smartphone is actually browsing, going on the internet, checking emails. So we check email more often than we talk to people using our phone today. So we use voice a lot, and why not use voice to look for everything on the phone? Because the phone form factor is very small. So there are already other major voice cloud services out there. There's the Google Voice Search, right, in all major languages. In fact, if you have a smartphone, you go to Google, there's a little microphone there. You click on it, and you can speak your query rather than type it. So my colleagues at Google told me that as of 2 years ago already, 1/3 of Google's English search query is in speech. So 1/3 of people searching English, they're actually using voice. And there's also Bing Voice Search in English from Microsoft, and they use that, they install that on their Xbox, right? So you can use voice command on the gaming machine. And there's a very popular service in the US in English. It's called Bilingual Voice Input. It's very much like Siri, where you can actually use voice as interface to anything on your phone. You can check calendar, weather, and everything. And then there's the most latest news. People, Apple announced iPhone 4S, and one of the key features of iPhone 4S is something called the Siri Personal Assistant. And Siri Personal, what is it? Actually, the team worked at SRI, and then they combined speech recognition results to a natural dialogue system. So what we call natural dialogue, where you ask for, I want to look for the nearest restaurant. So this is the Siri interface. So you can say, I want to find a romantic restaurant around here, and then they will ask, give you recommendations. So it's location-based and user profile-based. It looks at your history and so on and so forth. So this is now part of iPhone 4S. It used to be an app on the iPhone market. Right now it's no longer an app. So why am I telling you this? Because then you will have the context about what we do in my lab. Okay, we basically have something very similar to Siri, but it's for Mandarin, for Chinese users. All right, so if you know this, then you know what I'm going to talk about. Of course, all these services, the query is sent to the cloud. So what is the market? What is the market for cloud computing? We know, right? But what is the market for speech and voice search and language search and all that? So there are actually basically two kind of markets. One is the automobile market. In particular, in my lab, we've been working on Chinese speech recognition since 1997, and we were the first group in the world to work on regional accents in Mandarin, because in Mandarin people speak with different accents. So one of the key market is the automobile market. When you're driving, so in China you're usually stuck in a traffic jam for 2 to 3 hours each way, and you want to do something. Okay, you're not just driving. You want to listen to music. You want to access your email, and maybe you want to call somebody. But you still have to keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. So that's a very important market for voice technology, voice language technology. And the market, if we look at China today, China is now the world's top car market. Right? Already bypassed all the other markets already. So that is a huge market, and we have a project funded by APAS, the Hong Kong Productivity Council, the Automobile Parts and Accessories Research Center. We collaborate with them, and we basically made a prototype of such a car system. I will show you later.